Happy September, everyone. Hope you guys have had an amazing summer. Where the time has gone, no idea at all. Definitely thanks for joining today. We are going to dive in just with a handful of tips in terms of cruising internationally, as well as if you guys have been checking out our social media all summer, we have been dropping a lot of different helpful tips. If you got our newsletters, you also see them as well. This month and next, we are going to go hand by hand by just a handful of different destinations as well as cruise lines, things to do, some tips about them, just so you can have a little bit of more insight into them. As always, we definitely appreciate the emails and messagings from each one of you guys. We have a lot of new clients and a lot of collaborations coming up, so we're so excited about that. But we are definitely going to go into some of the do's and don'ts in terms of cruising international. We are going to be covering this for this month and next month. We're going to start in Asia and work our way to Europe. And then after that, stay tuned because we have some really amazing destinations towards the end of the year. And I'm so excited to throw them at your way. However, for those who do not know me, my name is Taishita. I am the founder and CEO of Luxury Travels by Dreamy Designer Events, where we curate elevated experiences worldwide. We also facilitate retreats as well as conferences. So founders, CEOs, and high C-suite executives can connect with their team, connect with their audience, as well as their clientele to make sure you're getting a little bit more of that personal experience outside of technology and all the everyday that life throws at your way. And just to really hone in on the genuine, authentic human touch. So with that being said, let's dive right on in. Before I jump into all of the details that I have that is going to be coming up, a few things that I wanted to kind of touch on. So one thing is when traveling to these different places, definitely do your research. With all of our clients, there's really not much that you have to do. We pretty much provide everything to you in terms of the guide ahead of time, things to do while you're there, things that you make sure you may have forgot about ahead of time, but definitely make sure. So this consists of knowing the currency of where you're going, knowing probably some of the destinations you're going to. If you're cruising, most cruise ships are cashless, so you don't have to worry about actually having any of the money to use on the ship. It's more so in the destinations that you guys are going to be going to. I say do your research because sometimes, even though you're in a similar, say, for example, if you're on a cruise and you're going to be hitting 2, 3, maybe 5 or 6 ports, that does not mean that all the currency for all of those ports are going to be the same. So definitely it's something just to keep in mind ahead of time. If not, you can use your cards. There's a couple of things about that. One, make sure you contact your card company to let them know you are traveling because that is the biggest downfall in terms of people getting into the destination and your card doesn't work or it gets declined because they think it's fraudulent because you may be home one day and not the next. So definitely want to avoid that. Also, make sure you, if you do have a few different cards, make sure you find out which one has the lowest international exchange rate, because some of them, the percentages could be kind of high. So you kind of want to make sure that you definitely find one that whichever has the lowest is typically the one you want to go with, just so that anytime you use your card, a percentage of that, they consider it an exchange rate. So you're going to be charged whatever the cost of the item is, as well as that additional cost. So the lower the interest rate, the better, and the less money that you have to worry about paying out. Another thing is the type of card. This is probably one of the most important, depending on where you are located. Like I said, we have clients that are anywhere from US as well as in Europe. And we also have them in Asia as well. But depending on where you're located, sometimes you already know what it is for the destination you're in. However, a lot of places, rule of thumb, Visa and MasterCard are going to be your number one go-to. That is pretty much almost, I can't say 100%, but almost unanimously you can use worldwide. If you have Discover has a little bit of limitations, not as much. They have gotten better over the past few decades, but they do have some still limitations, meaning that you may go to a destination that if you call Discover, they say you can use it there, but not all the shops may use it. So that's just something to keep in mind. Just be mindful. You always want to have possibly like a backup or be able, that's when you want to maybe want to look at, say for that is your only card. Maybe you want to look into maybe bringing a little bit more cash just so you don't run into any problems while you're there. Lastly is Amex. Amex, depending on where you're located, mostly international is where you're going to have it. US wise, you won't have really too much problems. However, a lot of places when you go internationally do not take Amex. A handful of them do. When I say a handful, very, very loosely, it is just a handful of them. However, if you have any other type of cards that you can possibly use, definitely I would recommend going to them right away, just because 9 times out of 10, if you find some place that does take a Amex, not every place during your duration, especially internationally. When I say internationally, I'm talking about almost any other country. So like between Europe, Asia, even if you're going to like Morocco or South Africa, if you're going to Dubai, pretty much a lot of places you may find some, but not a ton. So I always kind of tell people, if you can, try and stay away from it if you can avoid it. Debit card versus credit card. I feel like this is like the biggest controversy. People have done it both ways. If I'm going to be honest with you, and the same thing I kind of tell my clients, if you can, please do not use your debit card when you're traveling. In general, like if you're going anywhere outside of where you are located, try to avoid it. I say this for a couple of reasons. For one, when you use your debit card, and say, for example, if anything fraudulent happens, that money is coming out instantly directly from your funds. So even if you do put in kind of like something to fight it or things of that matter, sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes it's not as quick as a turnaround, and that is your actual money at that time. If you use a credit card, majority of the time, they may try to do a reverse or things of that manner, but that is pretty much like the credit that you have on that card. So they're going to be able to look into it, things that matter. That's not like your actual, like your money. Like say, for example, if your paycheck went in there and there was some fraudulent and your money is gone, that's actual money you have in your account at that time. If you can avoid it, please do. I recommend using a credit card. I would even recommend having cash over using your debit card if you must. Another thing is if you are going somewhere where you're staying in a hotel. So we'll get into this a little bit, well, actually quite soon. But if you're going anywhere that you have to stay in a hotel, some of them do require incidentals. So with incidentals, they do, or even rental car, if you happen to do a rental car, or if you're doing incidentals, a lot of times when you use debit cards, sometimes those funds are basically you can't use them immediately, and that's just a hold on it. But again, it's your actual money at that time that you can't use. If you do rental cars, a lot of times rental cars will actually take out a larger sum for debit cards versus credit cards. So just something to think about. It's not unanimous, but I will say a lot of the locations and a lot of the destinations do it. So my rule of thumb is I'd rather be over prepared than under prepared, because you're on vacation or you're traveling or you're doing something that's outside of being home. So you just want to make sure you cover all your bases if possible. Going into the next thing. So when traveling, it's good to kind of figure out where you're going to be. Adapters in terms of plugs will vary. And this goes no matter where you're going. Almost every country has a different variation of what their plug looks like. I always tell people, if you are traveling, even if you may not travel that often, or if you're traveling, a good thing that you can possibly do is do an adapter. Some adapters, if you look at, are converters or have a converter and an adapter, completely up to you. They have a lot of them, especially online. You can go to Amazon. Some things I already give out to my clients, the links that I would recommend, but there are adapters that will actually be able to help you. So you can actually, some of them are like multi-country, which is really nice. So no matter where you're going, you can just switch it and it will actually have the same kind of, all you do is like, kind of like move it up, and then it will turn into one that's for one country. And then you can use it for another country, because it's just a simple change of it that it has. It's really nice. I've used them for well over 10, 20, about 10 to 15 years. I probably would say I've used them, and hands down, wouldn't go anywhere without them. So definitely very must need. The last thing I will mention is, in terms of traveling, depending on where you're coming from, do your research in terms of what the protocols are for where you're taking your cruise, because some cruises may leave afternoon. Some way cruises may leave later, but there's a whole protocol of things in terms of when you have to check in for the cruise, things that you have to do in terms of what you can bring on the cruise ship. And that has to go with like most of them do not allow food and drink. Sometimes some of them do allow if you want to bring wine. However, they do charge like a corking fee, things of that manner. And they have a lot of other things that are prohibited or not prohibited. So again, there's some things just to keep in mind before going, especially because you're so far away from home. You would hate to bring something that's like costlier that, you just brought and then you realize you can't bring it on the cruise ship. The worst that you could do. In terms of that, most of the cruising are very nice. It's very easy. I kind of tell people when it comes to cruising, and I have said this in one of my other videos, that it's almost kind of like a taste. Like you get to sample different destinations instead of you physically going to each one of them. You get to sample it, see what you like. Sometimes if you love it, you may want to actually plan it and go back to that destination. And sometimes you kind of want to just be able to unpack once, but be able to say use 5 different countries, 5 different cities, whatever the case may be. And it's nice too, because with cruising, a lot of them do have like your one-stop shop. So they have a lot of things to do on the ship. I was kind of say it's like a city on the water. And then you get a chance to go off. But every time you leave off of the ship, you're seeing a different city each time. So with that being said, let's jump right on in. So excited. So this is going to be broken up this month, and next is going to be 3-part series. We are going to go down 3 different cruise lines for each of those destinations that I am about to mention. And just to keep in mind, there are so many cruise lines. These are not all of them by a long shot. These are just a handful of them that do have itineraries and do have particular things that you can, be on the lookout for. So when I say that, it's just one of those things where you want to, with cruising, sometimes if someone cruised a particular cruise line and ship, they may have transitioned. And when I say transition, meaning that they may actually, for 2 years, have one ship that says this itinerary and then switch it up, just so that sometime if people want to do different ships but same itinerary, you don't feel like it's as repetitive. So I'm going to go over some of them right now. However, it can always vary. A lot of times I tell my clients, if you have either a particular ship or if you have a particular itinerary or places you want to see, we can start there and then base everything else around that. It's a lot. It kind of consists of, so welcome to Mediterranean Cruise. The first cruise line we are going to cover, just the basics on, is Virgin Voyages. This is actually one of the smaller of the cruise lines that we're going to be talking about. But the nice part about them, which I feel like I always have to give them this props for it, is that they're one of the very only adults only cruise lines. And I've been on a handful of different cruise lines. So all of them kind of have their own special charm and their own special uniqueness behind it. But what I will say is this particular cruise line, it kind of like merges a little bit more of like that, like nice, a little bit high end, but for the fact that you don't have to worry about the kids. Like you want to go like parents' night out, friends, family, adults, however you look at it. But you just want to go away, have a nice thing. Everything is kind of has that. I always tell people anytime you're doing anything adults only, that goes whether it's the cruise lines, resorts, everything just seems a little bit different because they're able to do that because they don't have to worry about like any of like the wear and tear with the kids or certain things that can't be done or things of that manner. So that's one reason why I'm like, okay, hands down, a must. So what's when you go to the Mediterranean? A few things that I kind of let people know, and it's going to be similar almost any destination you go to. But a few things that I recommend is normally, depending on where you're coming from, some flights will come in same day, some flights will be overnight. I recommend the same way I would recommend it if someone was trying to do a cruise that's local to them in terms of, when I say local, I mean, maybe you're taking a 2 or 3 hour flight. I always recommend coming in the day before for any type of cruising. There's a few reasons for this. I recommend this because for one, 9 times out of 10, no matter where you're coming from, that day is a travel day. I don't care if you're taking a flight that's 2 hours or you're taking a flight that's 6 hours. That is a travel day by the time you have to factor in getting ready, getting to the airport, taking that flight, the hustle and bustle at the airport, all of the other nonsense. It is a travel day. So when I say that, it's because you want to make sure that you don't have stress about in as much as you can control. I say that because obviously there's a lot of things you can't control. But if you come in the day before, you kind of help alleviate if you have any delays with your flight, meaning your flight's either running behind schedule, is leaving late, you get there, but it can't actually, get you off of the plane in time, getting your bags, making it to the cruise ship before the cruise ship leaves, because the cruise will leave if you are not on there. I can guarantee you that. So definitely just making sure that you kind of have anything of that manner. Depending on where you're going and the time of the year, that's one thing, just to make sure you do your research so you can make sure you pack accordingly. And that's whether you're bringing light stuff or thicker stuff. Just keep in mind, 9 times out of 10, the cruise ship is probably going to have temperature a little bit opposite of where it is. So if you're going somewhere that's a little bit more colder, they're going to probably have a little bit more heat inside the ship since they know you're going to be on water or you're going to be, doing things with inside of it. Same thing if it's the opposite, where if you're going to warmer destinations, I definitely recommend just bringing something thin or light that you can put on in case you get a little bit chilly on the cruise. You kind of can cover yourself ahead of time. Your excursions, definitely recommend. If there's anything that you see that you want to do, please pre-book it ahead of time. It's so important. If you wait until you get on the ship, you can definitely do it. However, you do run the risk of, if they only hit a so amount of quota of how many people, you may run into that. So I was kind of telling people, if there's something you definitely want to do, please do it in advance. If you're kind of like, I can kind of play it by ear, or we'll see how things are when we're there, then in that case, you can wait till you get on the ship, because it doesn't matter if it's not available. It wasn't like the make it or break it for your experience while you're there. We kind of went over this in a little bit ago. In terms of currency, when you're traveling, make sure, so important, make sure you're just doing your research in terms of where you're traveling. And I say this a lot because certain countries, especially if you're coming from the US and even from some other destinations as well, some of them, especially if you're taking a flight into that place, they do require where they call kind of like a visa. There's nothing vigorous. There's nothing too like crazy that it entails. It's just that in order for you to take your flight from your destination to get there, there is a visa that's involved. Any of our clients, you don't have to worry about it. We let you know in advance, or we take care of it for you. It's nothing that you have to worry about. But for anybody else that you have something planned or you're looking for it, definitely make sure that you look at their protocols ahead of time, because if you, say for one, deciding to go in the day of the cruise, that will majorly delay you, or two, you're coming in the day before, everyone else is, getting off the plane, doing whatever they're doing, you're running into a problem because you don't have a visa or you weren't cleared for their visa ahead of time. Just make sure, I'd rather be over prepared than not prepared. Big time. So let's go into the cruise. So Virgin Voyages, it's really nice. I kind of tell people that if you've been on cruise lines before, especially if you've been on any that has like the family or the kids, things of that manner, that's one thing you do not have to worry about. It's kind of one of those things where you're going to hit the nightlife with the party scene. You're going to hit the buffet or the dining, and you can definitely it's going to have a quiet but also lively atmosphere too, because you don't have to worry about all the things around you just going crazy. You can still have fun, still be able to enjoy yourself without all the kids. This is going into a couple of the other cruise lines that we will be covering later in this month. And honestly, they do not disappoint. I have had clients that's been on them. I personally have been on them. Some of them are genuinely my favorites, but definitely something that I recommend to keep in mind when looking at your cruise line. Another thing, before I go into this, is cruise ships. The cruise lines are great because you know the brand, but cruise ships also are second to that. So if you're going to be taking an itinerary that only has less than a handful of ports. And when I say this, say for example, if your cruise may be a week and you're only hitting 2 or 3 ports just because it takes longer to get there and longer to come back, make sure your cruise ship is either a bigger one or one that's been newly renovated, because the problem you're going to deal with is you're going to have so much sea time and not enough stuff to do on the ship. So important. There's a lot of things that me and my team make sure that we go over with our clients ahead of time, so you don't run into any problems. Or if you think that, okay, well, this is going to be a blast, X, Y, and Z, you come there and you're like, okay, we still have like 4 more days and there's not really much. We've done everything. So something to keep in mind. However, going back to Virgin Voyages, definitely Mediterranean is the way to do it. You're going to be seeing so much of the different destinations, the cities. It's really nice because again, you get a taste of what they have to offer. They have it and you can do it at your own pace. So these places, they have nightlife, they have shows, they even have activities. And the nice thing about it, because it's adults only, you don't have to worry about all the little ones, or you can definitely plan to get away and not have to worry. You're not worried about somebody else's kids either. You don't worry about yours, someone else's, or sometimes you just don't want to, you don't want to have to worry about it in general. It's definitely the best way to do it and the best way to kind of see why you're there at the same time. Cabins, definitely, they're a little bit more on the modern chic. They're very nice, clean, cut. I always kind of tell people with them, it depends on the person, I probably should say. Um, they have obviously your interior, which is kind of like they don't have any windows. They're inside. They're normally the best priced ones, but they're also the ones that you may be spending more time out of your cruise, out of your cabin, or you want to go, but you just don't have the money to spend anything else. It's kind of like nice and standard. I personally, best case scenario, I would do a balcony. If I had to, I may do an ocean view, but 9 times out of 10, I'm going to aim for the balcony. I just personally, I love the ocean. So I love hearing the ocean, waking up to the ocean, going to sleep to the ocean. And sometimes it's nice. Sometimes even if whether you're by yourself, you're traveling with other people, a couple, and it's nice to just kind of relax out there. You can kind of just sit out there, hear the ocean, clear your mind. It's like one of the most, it's like the almost like one of the best meditations that you really don't have to worry about doing anything besides literally hearing the sound of the ocean. Couldn't be any better than that. Lastly, they do have a ton of promotions, and a lot of their promotions they run year round. The only thing I will tell people is because of the fact that they are one of the smaller cruise lines compared to some of the bigger ones, a lot of their itinerary is strictly based off of particular dates and particular ships. So they have a handful of ships, they have a handful, and then they do rotate and they kind of rotate out and things of that manner. But I always tell people because sometimes some of the bigger ones, they have ones that run every single week. They may change the ship, but they run on a regular basis. It's not like that for them. So I would probably say if you're open, if you want to do them, either plan ahead, meaning that, say, for example, if you're like, okay, I may want to take a cruise within 2 or 3 months, or not like 2 or 3 months from today. I mean, 2 or 3 months time span for like next year. Look at their dates and see what cruises that they have. Or if you want to do a particular destination, so say for if you want to do like more of like a particular Mediterranean destination or a particular Caribbean destination, put in that destination so you can see what dates those cruise falls under, because that's really going to be how you're going to pertain it. Because sometimes if people want to be like as specific as they normally are with a lot of the other cruise lines, where they put in the date, they put in the destination, and then they come back and they're like, where's my options? It's because the cruise line they're looking at. And it's not for lack of them not being great. It's just that they don't have as many ships as some of the other ones do. So it's kind of like this is one of the ones I would definitely plan ahead. And I say that too because if you plan last minute, and when I say last minute, you're looking at anywhere between, I would probably say 3 to 6 months. If you're looking at a holiday or summer, probably even less than that. They will sell out very, very quickly. And because a lot of people like them, because they're adults only, and because they don't have a ton of ships on a regular basis, the ones that they do have, it do sell out. Most of these cruise lines, they have itineraries out a year and a half in advance. Some of them are even 2 years. So I definitely recommend getting on board if you want to do it. And a lot of them are like you can put a deposit down and then you can either pay it over time up until their final payment date, which is normally a few months before the actual selling takes place. Well, with that being said, we're going to end off with just one of their ships. Like I said, they do have a handful of ships for you to take advantage of. This is just one of them. A lot of them, because they don't have a ton of them, some of them have been renovated recently, or some of them are just some of their newer ships. But definitely, this one is really nice. Again, they have a lot more of that chic look. And each of their ships have a different theme to them. So you're not going to be like, we're going to be repetitive and you're going to see the same this ship is going to match the same. It's going to be completely different, but it's really nice. They have the lounges, they have the nightclubs, they have the food, they have the service. They have truly where you want to feel like a VIP experience while you're on vacation and not having to worry about the kids. And on that note, if you've traveled to Europe, if you've been on a cruise, definitely let us know. Let me know what your favorite is. Let me know one that maybe you probably recommend. Like I said, we will be touching on 2 other ones later this month. And please keep in mind, there are a ton of cruise lines. As always, when you guys reach out, you guys are amazing. When you reach out, let me know what you're looking for, and my team and I will give you our best recommendation to it, because some of them are nice, but if you're looking for a particular vibe, or if you're looking, say, for example, if this is the type of traveler you are and you see a particular cruise line, that's why we're here. So we can make sure we pair you with the experience you're looking for, and not just, oh, I seen this and I like the pictures of it. Because obviously, if you're used to a certain travel, or even if you're not, and you're like, hey, this is my first cruise, but this is the vibe I'm looking for, let us know, because we definitely want to make sure we keep you in mind. Okay, until next time, definitely stay tuned, reach out to us, and look forward to touching base soon. Bye.